Alright, and now we're gonna hit a couple of stories we didn't hit last time. So, we might start with Club Paris.
Club Paris. That was a club that was owned by Paris Hilton. That lasted in Jacksonville all in all for about 6 months. We managed to run an AAP show there. The guy told us he had a pro wrestling ring. We go there. He's got a 22-foot boxing ring. To where if you know anything about boxing rings and professional wrestling rings,
Stiff as balls.
well, stiff, and it's two totally different worlds. To where boxing rings, every few feet they've got stiffs underneath the ring because their plywood is separated. And the ropes, they have turnbuckles, but they're not like tight like pro wrestling rings to where like, you know, like literally I got in the ring, I did an up and over where I sprung myself off the bottom rope to go over the rope. When I did it, I split the turnbuckle in the corner. Alright? 10 minutes into the match, we start hitting the ropes. We told ourselves, you know, calling the match that we weren't going to be able to use the ropes that much because it was just going to look ridiculous because you would sag like 3 feet and it just totally was a dead giveaway. Even running to the corner, you couldn't do it because there was a time I shot the guy into the corner and we literally broke 2 turnbuckles. And I'm not talking about the turnbuckles popping off of the hook. I'm talking about aluminum brake. We broke.
Having turnbuckles made out of aluminum is a good start. You know,
we broke, like, you know, there was 4 ropes. You know, I broke 1 turnbuckle coming in. We broke 2 hitting the ropes. You know, like we literally probably broke 5 or 6 turnbuckles within the first 10 minutes of this match. Well, not even, probably like 8 or 9 minutes in. And the promoter comes over and he's just like, take it home, you're breaking the ring. Like we were like busting the plywood that we were standing on. Of course, me and Todd, one of my best friends, were like, no, we're not. We're gonna finish our match because like we had called the match and we were going into the finish and we were just gonna do what we were gonna do. To me personally, the highlight of the match was Todd Ash Corbin coming in and doing like this roll up Rana, which I stopped him and I threw him off and he did a backflip, landing on his feet. To me, the biggest memory was him landing on his legs because he blew his knee out and stuck standing and still came at me and finished the whole spot and finished the match. And this dude, like, he didn't walk for weeks after this, and like he probably shouldn't have walked after landing on his leg, but he did. And like that's mainly what I remember. That and like, you know, nobody being in the club during the show. Really, there was like maybe you know, 15 people in the club watching the show. Like we wrestled for a camera, and that was why we did what we did. But then afterward, we got to go up to the VIP area and we drank for 3 hours for free. So like, you know, you can't really beat that.
How about the Cocoa Beach Carson show, where you guys each had an interesting memory from both your matches? I believe Jack worked Brian Kelly when he was still
spot, right?
with the Hulk Hogan
The
spot.
Hulk Hogan spot.
Yeah, Brian Kelly apparently has never seen
Byron,
the Hulk Hogan again.
What's his word? His Fed name?
Byron Saxton.
Byron
man.
Saxton.
Yeah, man. Like,
Doing the FCW announcing, which I'll admit, you're doing a really good job, but at the Cocoa Beach, man, holy crap.
yeah, bro.
How do you fuck up the Hogan spot?
I mean, really. I mean, much love to Brian Kelly, man. I got nothing but love for Brian Kelly, but damn, big boot leg drop. Like, what? How do you screw that up, bro? Like, I don't know, man. You know, at the same time, like, it should have been my judgment call, man, because during the match, he hit this, like, Oklahoma Stampede power slam that got a real big pop, and I should have just made that the finish at that time. You know what I mean? I should have just had the insight to just be like, yeah, man, just keep it there. Just stay down. Just stay down for that shit. But I mean, you know,
that's what you call it, bro.
Yeah, you know, the Hogan spot. You know, it's just like one of them. You know, it's one of them basic spots where it's just like, man, you're a big dude. Just throw your leg up, hit the ropes, and drop the leg. And like, I don't remember how he screwed it up, but like it got mangled by Brian Kelly. And like God, and you know, man's got contracts, so what the hell can I say about it? Really, you know what I mean? He can screw that Hogan spot up all day long, bro. It don't matter.
Idea what you're talking about.
It don't matter.
And I believe there was something interesting that happened in your match versus John Davis.
I worked John Davis, which I probably had a handful of matches with that cat, and we always have okay matches. Like we haven't had a match yet that I think is flawless. I think we kind of just our wrestling styles are kind of different. Just sometimes with people you work, you have stuff like that you're never really happy with. But yeah, like that match, I was working heel and he was baby and everything was, you know, I think that was probably one of the better matches we've ever had. But yeah, like, you know, he was getting over and I cut him off, and I remember like giving him a snapmare and just like biting him on top of his head and just like spitting and just being like, I hate soul food. And like the crowd response was the best ever, just because they were like, oh, like they had this, like, they were like, damn, that was fucked up, and then it like took 20 seconds and they actually got what I was saying, and they were like, that is fucked up. Like it was definitely one of the coolest responses I've ever got in a crowd, because literally they were like, oh, like you heard that like sink in. Like it was cool, you know, it was cool. Although like that show was a flop, like, you know, thankfully for us there was a couple of, you know, decent memories.
A guy who was at that show that you have a different story about, Kevin Sullivan. You have a interesting Kevin Sullivan story.
Yeah, I mean, probably the coolest Kevin Sullivan story I have is I did a show with him for Frank Goodman in Orlando, and he asked me if I'd give him a ride back to his hotel after the show, and you know, of course, like, who the fuck am I, like, I'm gonna say no to that. And so we're going back to the hotel, and we stop at this gas station, which this road that we're on is the road directly behind Universal Studios. I can't think of the name of the road, but it's like where how you get into the back parking lot, like if you were to go to TNA or anything like that. And so like there's a bunch of hotels back there, and so we stop at a gas station, I'm getting gas, and dude goes in to get some beer or whatever, and so I go in to pay for my gas, and Sully's in front, and between us is this group of these like straight ghetto, you know, these black cats, and like there's like four or five of them, you know, and like it's just like we're waiting in line to do the deal. The thing about Sullivan is, at the time, like, this cat wears like middle school like Coach shorts, and like these things are like Daisy Duke short, and he wears t-shirts, and the t-shirts are longer than his pants. So if you're looking at the dude from a distance, it looks like all he's got on is a t-shirt with no pants on. So from the back, there's these 5-6 cats in front of me, and they're just like giggling and pointing and laughing and like, oh man, this old white dude doesn't have any pants on or whatever. And I'm like standing behind them like, oh man, and they're like, I'm not gonna say anything. These motherfuckers, like, let them say what they're gonna say. And like, so I'm like, whatever. And Sullivan turns around, and these guys are all probably between the ages of 18 and 24, 25. They're not that old. And like, he turns around, and every single one of these motherfuckers recognize him. And like, they're just like, oh shit, it's a Taskmaster! It's a Taskmaster! And I'm just like, oh my god, dude, like, these motherfuckers recognize him. Like, he hadn't been on WCW in 10 years. You know, like, this is like way down the road from anything that he's done on TV. Like, I think he did a TNA spot, and they kind of like jobbed him, like, to where they like fucked up his music on the way out. Like, he was telling me they kind of like crapped on him. But like, just these guys recognizing him on the spot. Like, as soon as he turned around, like, I don't know, like, me personally, if I was just some random person out in the store, like, I might not have even recognized this cat if he turned around. And like, for this group of these kids to like recognize him and know who the fuck he was, like, dude, it was awesome.
Where did Party Boy come from?
The It's a jackass spot.
Yeah, right. Who knows?
It's a jackass
Yes.
spot. You know, like you got the one guy that's trying to like earn his cred, and you're like, hey, you know what a party boy is? And they're like, yeah. And you're like, hey, go party boy right now. That became you.
Yes. For those who don't know, Pez is party boy.
Pez Merriweather,
Yeah.
some of the greatest party boys. I think it started with Andy. When we, the first couple times we took you down to a show, I remember getting out in the parking lot and just being like, hey, you know what would be hilarious? Hey, Pez. Party boy. And you went over and you started dancing on Andy, and Andy really didn't know what to think. It was kind of uncomfortable. Then he kind of
didn't know what to do with this boner.
Then he started enjoying it, yeah. And then he was calling you Amy, and I was like, no, it's Pez. And he was like, Amy. I'm like, no, it's Pez. And you know, it quickly, you know, like became a thing to where like anytime we were at anywhere where there was some fun need to be going on, we would just be like, hey, Pez, party boy. And you know what I mean? Like you were down, so you would go do it. And I think the culmination, the build up, the big blow off, as you want to call it in the business, was at the strip club. Where
After some Peterson Cup, I think, in Tampa, right? Something
yes,
like that.
yes,
Yeah.
where you shouldn't do anything like that. It's very inappropriate. We were like, hey, there's Sal, the promoter of FIP. Party boy. You went over and did your thing, and then we got surrounded by security because they were like, what are you doing, man? What the fuck's wrong with you? And you're just like, nothing, I've been drinking sweet tea all night.
Well, it wasn't that. It was the fact that I took my shirt off while I was doing it, and they thought I was doing something inappropriate.
It's not like you were the only person in that building doing that.
God. Two other stories about that. I have to step in front of the camera for a second. One of them was when we actually used a party boy in a match in Tallahassee.
With Fordell Walker?
With Fordell Walker, yes. Where at one point in the spot I told the music girl to hit the party boy music when you said party boy go. And I proceeded to party boy in between them while they were doing like a wrist lock.
Chain wrestling.
Yeah, chain wrestling.
And Eddie couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah. That whole match we did a couple of funny spots. And then for some reason
You kept going back to it throughout the whole match,
yeah,
right?
we went back to it a couple of times. And I can't remember the other party boy spots, so I'll think of it later and act like an idiot. I don't know, any other interesting stories you guys have? I'm kind of out of my notes here. Anything that happened on those long 5-hour drives, anything like that?
God, man, it's all just through the holes of my brain.
Anytime my pants were pulled down and I put them up against somebody's face and did the bo game, you know, it was always cool.
To answer your question.
There's actually a person on the news I just watched the other day. They're going to prison for 17 years for teabagging somebody, dude. So like,
it's awesome.
I'm afraid of the shit I've done.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, for our grand finale, if you like to call it, I'd like to pull a James Lipton here and ask if I could speak with the loggers for a second. If I could speak to Lumberjack Manley and the Mighty Dagon.
Hey the world! We're on freaking camera! Captain America! I'm not talking about the Styx song.
Gentlemen, what is your favorite word?
Over!
Overtime, how you doing?
Over! In the match.
Doing 23 hours at the mill, how you doing?
You know what I mean? Overtime at the mill, you know what I mean? I'm not talking about lunchbox.
I'm not talking about what she mother neither.
The double whopper, better known as the double, you know, lunchbox.
You give Betty my best, how you doing?
What is your least favorite word?
Under! And I'm not talking about his underwear. Stinky winky.
What's your favorite curse word?
Oh, I'd like to think it's fuck. How you doing?
I think, you know, Vajeje, you know.
Vajeje's a pretty good one,
Pretty much on
you
the,
know, it
under
reminds
the
me of your
radar.
mother.
What's your favorite color?
Oh,
You know, blues.
I'd like to think, flannels.
Browns, some blues.
Red and blacks.
The color, lumberjack Manny's mother's.
Any color, of my poop after drinking all night, it's a pretty good one.
Who said anything about blood?
What sound or noise do you love, gentlemen?
How you doing? That's what I'm talking about.
What sound or noise do you hate?
Hey, lumberjack Manley, I think you should probably put on some weight because you're looking a little skinny. Those golden, blue tights you just bought? I think they're kind of cheap.
Hey, boys, the house is looking kind of short tonight.
I don't think I can pay you.
It's kind of hard on the envelopes.
Even though, I'm, selling t-shirts. How you doing?
How you doing?
What turns you on, Muggers?
Wood.
How you doing?
Chainsaw.
What turns you off?
Fat chicks, that we put out,
an empty bottle of maple syrup.
I thought he was going to say rum and coke.
And finally, gentlemen, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear?
That's what I'm talking about over here.
Thank you guys very much.